Hi, friends. We're so glad you're here. The Big Ideas podcast exists to empower the next generation of entrepreneurs. Join us for unscripted conversations while you're at home with your kids or even just driving them around to activities. We hope these short but powerful messages will give you inspiration and encouragement for your next big ideas. Welcome back, friends, to the Big Ideas podcast. I'm Ashley Ilg, and of course, I've got Owen and Dylan here with me again today, and we are super excited about what we are going to share with y'all today, and we are just truly believing that it's going to make an impact. I think it's a topic that children and adults find themselves facing really regularly, and so I think this is going to be just a great topic. So the topic for today is going to be on seeking approval. So, the question, who are you listening to? Whose opinion matters to you? Do you need other people's approval? Do you need everyone to say you're doing great? I believe in what you're doing. Everything you say and everything you're doing is going to work out just fine. Do we need that approval before we will move forward on what we're called to do or feel confident to do or have prayed about and really just feel strongly about what we're going to do? That's what we're going to talk about today. So Owen and Dylan have a few examples, of course, of maybe moments in their life that they have needed that approval or when they've gotten feedback that has not been awesome, has not been encouraging. And they're going to share with you what they felt, kind of how they processed what that emotion felt like and looked like and how it affected what they did moving forward. So Dylan, why don't you start us off and explain some of the feedback that wasn't necessarily encouraging. Is actually quite a bit rude and insulting comments that you've gotten on some videos you've taken the time to make and post on your YouTube channel. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So one time there was a young immature person who has commented on one of my videos where I was just drawing a simple sunset. Mm-hmm. I felt really proud of that, but when I saw the comment, it made me feel bad for maybe a split second, but I'm able to choose whether it can get to me or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I've just learned to be stronger. But it's not just that video. It's been another one. I was painting just like a road view with just a pretty scenic sky. And somebody told me to burn it. But I can say, like, I'm able to choose whether I can listen to them or I can't.
So you mentioned that in that first video with the sunset that they were young and immature. So you could kind of tell the person that was making the comments, they maybe weren't somebody that you were really looking up to or respecting. It wasn't like a close family or friend. Was it anybody that you even knew?
No.
So did their opinion really matter to you?
No. If I don't know them, it's not really going to matter because yeah.
I mean, was it a famous artist that was commenting on it that was like, hey, this isn't very good, and I know this because I'm experienced and have credibility in making real art?
Well, I mean, I've had a famous artist commented on one of my videos, but it was a positive comment, but not negative.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. Yeah, so I think that's a really good point to make. If people are, or a person is maybe commenting that isn't encouraging to you, or maybe being critical of your ideas or your work. And there's somebody that just, they don't have credibility in that space. They're not successful in what they're even critiquing. I think that really quickly is able to be, that's just minimized. It minimizes the impact of what they're saying to you, which I think is always important to recognize. A lot of us will face, negativity or comments or, not getting the approval that we feel like we might need in the moment. But when we just pause and look at it and say, well, this person doesn't really matter, like to my work or to my ideas, I think it can just help us keep that perspective. So let's talk about if, well, let me go back. So Dylan, you said, that you are able to just kind of keep moving forward. So are you still creating art?
Oh yeah, heck yeah. I'm still making art. I'm making it better than ever. And it's just still a great hobby of mine.
Yeah. So did their opinion or their approval or lack of approval impact you and how you're doing anything? I mean, did you tweak anything or did you just kind of brush it aside and just keep moving forward?
Well, I brush it like dust. It's not really that big of a deal because they don't mean anything to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And let's take it one step further. If it was somebody who was, a really well-known artist or even like a graphic designer doing, like the animation art that you do a lot of, would their feedback maybe pause and force you to kind of step back and say, well, they actually know what they're talking about. Maybe I'll take some of their critique to heart and maybe make some adjustments.
Even if it was like, no matter how great they might be, I always have my own personal style of art. Like, art is my thing. I don't want to take somebody else's advice, unless it's positive advice.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's negative advice, negative you never take, but positive you should always take.
Yeah, and I think something that I've realized over the years with business, especially, is it's typically, if there's a successful person giving you feedback, they know what it takes to succeed. And so they're usually the first ones to encourage you. They know that it's hard work. They know it's going to take some failure to reach that success. It's typically the people that are not successful that are quick to judge and be critical and maybe not so encouraging. So I love that it's kept you going, Dill. And I mean, art in itself, my number one rule for art is that there's no rules. Anyone that I've ever taught or anything knows that that's how I believe about art. So that's kind of a fun situation too. So let's move on. So we were, talking about people who we don't really know, people that don't really have, a position in our life of authority of anything. Well, what if it is somebody who is close to you? What if it's somebody who you actually do look up to or admire or respect? What if they don't approve of what you're doing? How do we handle that?
Well, if someone told me that my work is not good enough, I would not listen to them because I put a lot of time and effort to my work and I'm just not going to end it all over someone's advice.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
even if it's like a brother or a best friend.
Mm-hmm. Like, my YouTube channel, they told me like, oh, you're not going to be successful doing that stuff. They could help me improve on my channel, but that would not make me stop my channel.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point to make too, Owen, because, people who want to give us feedback and critique, like, that's fine. We're not being above correction. I want to be clear on that. We are definitely open to improving, seeking wisdom, seeking guidance. We're not just being like, no, I've got this. I don't need anybody to tell me to stop. That's not our attitude at all. We're talking about needing approval before we're willing to move forward or take action on something that we know through prayer, through our confidence, through our gifting and our talents that we've talked about so much, that we are going to move forward on that. And sometimes even those closest to us, people that know us the best, sometimes their feedback or their critique could come at us and seem critical. And so like you just said, I love that. Sometimes their feedback is meant to just help us pause, step back and see what truth, is there any truth in what they are saying? Is there something that we can improve on? And if so, like, for sure, let's improve it. Let's do better. Like, there is value in getting positive critique. That's definitely real. That's definitely helpful. And then, but not needing 100% approval before we move forward. I think that's the distinction that's, easy to miss, but super, super critical. So, Owen, I love how you just broke that down. Thank you. I'm also going to add too a personal story from Andy and I when we first started our very first business. So this was about 20 years ago. We had just graduated college. We had worked really hard to earn our degrees. We were super excited about our corporate careers. We had no idea that the entrepreneur life was for us at this point. We had no kids. And we got a taste of entrepreneurship and started our first business. And we were super excited. And we were met with, I'm just going to call it what it is. It was just downright non-support. There was definitely negativity, definite, well, we're not going to support you from people super, super close to us. And we had a choice to make. We did not have a track record of owning a business. We were already in the space of kind of second guessing ourselves a little bit, doubting our abilities. Yes, we were excited about the possibility and chasing our dreams, but as every first-time entrepreneur knows, that comes still with a lot of second guessing, a lot of doubt. Like I said, we had no success to point to for ourselves at that point. And so these people that gave us some pretty negative, pretty heart-touching, heart-wrenching feedback, it hurt. It really hurt. And I would love to say that it was a split second of hurt, but it was probably several days that it took us to kind of rebound, kind of take it to the Lord, take it to our business mentors at the time, and just say, you know what? And we had to have honest conversations with those people too. And, we said, you know what? I think you are mistaken. And I really just need you to trust that as a husband and wife team, like we really feel called to this. And I'm going to need you to step back and not be critical. But if you continue to be critical, I'm sorry, but we are moving forward on what we feel is important to us right now. And so it was bold. It took courage. We can still look back on that point now and say that was a turning point for our marriage, for our business life, for our future, really our financial future, our family. That decision really was a pretty pivotal point in our life. And I guess that's why I'm pretty passionate about this topic of seeking and needing other people's approval. Because again, going back to what Dylan said earlier, yes, these were people that we loved, that we respected, and their opinion mattered to us. But at the end of the day, they also had never owned a business. They were not in a position to teach us on business, and their perspective was limited. They did not know what we had seen. They did not understand what we were excited about. And we had to recognize that. We had to recognize and say, we're not going to disrespect them. We're not going to dishonor them. But we are going to recognize that they have not seen what we have seen, and they do not have success or fruit or credibility in the space that we are looking to move forward in. And so that helped us give us that boldness to move forward and to not need their approval to do so. But like I said, it was not easy. It was definitely hard. There were tears, there was frustration, and it took days for us to bounce back, but even that relationship was strained for a good while. It is healthy and supportive now, but like I said, that was 20 years ago, and it took a few years, if I'm being honest, to really help that perspective and that relationship really come full circle. So if anybody out there is, facing some critique or some disapproval from those that they love, just know if God is on your side, it will all work out. So be encouraged in that. And, speaking of approval of man versus approval of God, I did come across just a scripture literally this morning as I was preparing for this that I thought was so perfect, and I'd love to share it. And then we'll kind of wrap up this topic, but it comes from Galatians 1:10, and it says, it's Paul talking, and he says, "Am I now trying to win the favor and approval of men or of God? Or am I seeking to please someone? If I were still trying to be popular with men, I would not be a bondservant of Christ." And I think at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. It's not disrespecting, it's not dishonoring those that don't agree with us or don't support those God-given ideas and business plans and just visions for our life, but it's about having the approval of God. And when we do have God's approval, when we've taken those ideas and those steps to God, and we have gotten that confirmation and that approval from Him, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if others are approving of us or not. I like to say, seek the approval of the nail-scarred hands. The applause of man will come and go, but the nail-scarred hands are the ones that you want clapping for you the most. All right, so on that note, I'm going to pass it over to Dylan. He's got a word of wisdom and a little power quote that he wants to share with y'all. Go ahead, Dylan.
Trust in the divine plan, for God's will surpasses the limitations of man's understanding.
I love that. Yeah, it's literally like we were just saying, men and women, friends, family, complete strangers, they definitely don't always understand what God's plan is for our life. And so trusting God's divine plan above what others can maybe see or understand at this point is the ultimate. So as we wrap up today, we hope that this episode was helpful for y'all. As I always love to do, if there's someone or maybe a piece of what you're working toward that you've been maybe hesitating on or second guessing maybe a little bit too long because you're waiting for somebody or a group of people to approve what you're doing, I would just encourage you to, if you have gotten God's approval, I would just admonish or encourage you to just take that one step today to move forward into whatever that call is, whatever that piece of work is, and be encouraged and just know that God is cheering for you. We're definitely cheering for you. We're over here taking our own advice on a daily basis, and we can't wait to hear about all those wins, approved of or not, because at the end of the day, God's approval is really what matters most. So thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you next time.